welcome to I Turn My Podcast On. It is the one, the only, super fanning, career-spanning podcast all about the greatest rock band of our time, Spoon. My name is Tyler, and I'm so excited you're here today. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you, wherever you are, however you got here, whether it was through social media, a concerned family member, or maybe you traveled here from the future. All really exciting, but I'm glad to have you here today. We are talking about a little EP by Spoon called Soft Effects. That's right, Soft Effects. And it's really great and interesting, and we're going to break down as much as we can break down. Again, it's 5 songs. The running time's like 15 minutes. I think it's like a couple seconds shy of 15 minutes. So it's going to be a little shorter episode today, but it's going to be great. And we're going to have a really interesting interview segment with Britt at the end. So let's get into some basic information on this EP. So it was released January 21st, 1997 on Matador Records. Again, this was a EP, and it was a follow-up to Telephono. So it was recorded at Dogland, same place where they recorded Telephono, with John Crosland as the producer. John also played bass on some of the songs. We had Scott Adair, a.k.a. Clanky, as we talked about on the last episode. He was also on bass. He did a short leg of the tour after John Crosland bowed out. And then we have Brad Shenfield on Dubuque, and he is a great player of that. I honestly have no clue what that means. He's actually their lawyer now, so that's pretty exciting. It's a big transition for Brad as a humble Dubuque player, and now representing them in legal matters. Exciting stuff. So again, the track listing, it's 5 songs. We have Mountain to Sound, Waiting for the Kid to Come Out, I Could See the Dude, Get Out, The State, and Lost Leaders. So the great thing about this EP, if you're listening to this in 2020 or after, this EP is reissued now. Since when it was released in 1997, it was exclusive to 500 copies on vinyl. And then it was on CD, but then later it was repackaged with Telephono, and that was on Merge Records. But it was a very hard thing to find if you're collecting vinyl. So now we have multiple colored copies, a red and a blue, and then we have a black vinyl with the CD version of the cover. So they're only released to have 2 different versions of cover art, which is really interesting. And before we break down the music, just kind of explain my personal connection with it. So, as mentioned before, this release was on a burn CD from a great friend, Worth. He gave me, it was the Telephono and Soft Effects repackaged. So it was on one disc when I listened to it. So the songs kind of all went together for me for a while until later, like on my iTunes and on my phone, I separated the releases just because I kind of wanted to try to listen to them as maybe people did when they first heard them, because they are separate releases. And I think the more you listen to them separately, at least for me, I really started to realize that and pick some things out. Notice some songwriting progression, some of the music progression. And to really hear that, it just took, like I said, separating them, the releases. So, yeah, I'm almost positive that Merge, their repackage, probably sold more than the Matador stuff back in the day, just from the research and conversations with Britt, as those records on Matador when they first came out did not do well. And so as the band got more popular, with albums like Kill the Moonlight, and Gimme Fiction, and of course Ga 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 on Merge Records, then people probably said, hey, I want to hear this old stuff. I know I remember seeing the release at a show in 2009 and at the merch table. I think I actually bought a series of Sneaks on CD because I never heard that one. But so people, as the band, got more popular and sold more, then they wanted to go back and discover this old stuff. So this again was the third release that I heard after Gimme Fiction and Ga 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 Ga. And I always liked it all. I thought it was interesting. It was obviously heavier, more energy, and the guitars were, as a guitar player, I always loved hearing the guitars just kind of thrash around and that energy that you feel through that type of guitar playing. But let's do this, people. Are you ready? We're going to break down track 1, Mountain to Sound. So until we get into, or before we get into any of the main song, I just wanted to break down that intro. It feels so good, doesn't it? I love how everything is slowly introduced. You get the main guitar riff, then you get some drums, then you get some bass, and it's just a great way to kind of pull you in to this song, and to this release, an EP. But the one thing that really is interesting is, so the guitar riff is the same chord 5 times in a row. So da-na-na-na-na, da-na-na-na-na. And the way Jim approaches the drums, it's almost like a waltz. It's really interesting. So he's got like his kick drum on the 1, the 4, and then the snare drums on the 5 of this song. So I'm going to play this really weird, like rudimentary thing on the table, just to kind of prove my point of how Jim's always doing something interesting. Because if this is a slower tempo song and you have those 5 chords that da-na-na-na-na, da-na-na-na-na, I would approach it, and I know like a slower drum beat, real simple basic drum beat would da-na-na-na-na, 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 da-na, you know what I mean? Like that would be a slow drum beat. But he adds that flair in his style of rhythm. It's really cool. And so I've always loved that about this song, that weird drum beat. I hope that didn't sound awful in that recording of me just playing on this table. I will try to edit if it sounds really loud or obnoxious or clipping or anything like that. But the song starts great, so I just kind of wanted to break that down before we get into a main part of the song. But the other thing that I love, and you will notice, is the panning on the track. So you're going to have drums and one guitar in your left speaker or left headphone, and then you're going to have your other guitar and bass in your right headphone. And so this is just an interesting thing that they do with this song. And then Britt's vocals, they're very distorted. It's almost kind of like megaphony in a way, kind of, farther away from the mic, it sounds like, that distortion. And it's a cool song. So we'll play a portion that's my favorite. The song's kind of building, and then it kind of breaks out with some instrumental part. But Britt's, he kind of yelps, and I don't know, I'm a sucker for any song where they do a count. So even a song that starts with 1, 2, 3, 4, I just love it. I just love what's going to happen. I anticipate it, right? So on this one, Britt, I think the lyric, I'm not sure. I think it is all set, right, go. And then the music kind of breaks, it crescendos, if you will, and then they rock out there. So I just want to play a little bit of the song, but that portion, and it gets me psyched up. Yeah, that song is just awesome. You know, it rocks right there. Interesting too. I've heard Jim Eno talk about this song, I believe, and he said that he felt, or he hears when he hears the drum take, you know, in the song, that he didn't know the song that well, or that's how he analyzed it. But man, I love it. It does sound, especially in that part that we played where, you know, it does do that real rock part. You know, kind of builds and then rocks out. He is rock out. First of all, I just got to address that. I'm saying rock out. That's cool, right? I think it is. That cool to say? Let's rock out. This is the part where they rock out. I don't know. I'm fine with it. Let me know. Write in, of course, and let me know if that's an uncool thing to say now. But no, so that part where Jim is doing the drums, it sounds loose, but that's great. Like, I love the sound of that during the portion where there's the, you know, it's a real simple guitar break, right? It's just you know, it's a little bit higher, but it's real simple. But yeah, his drums, he does some fills, he does some cymbals, and it's really, really good. So I love that part of the song. The other interesting part is the ending. So we're going to play a little clip of the ending, and we'll just talk a little bit about that. All right, so we just did a abrupt fade out just because the song just keeps fading out. But a couple of things I like about that part. So I love the yelping again on this song. Yeah, he was just in it. He was feeling it on this song. When he says "mountain to sound," yeah, I love it. It's great. And then another time signature change, and then it's to 4 beats. The da na na na. Da-na-na-na, you know, and then they just keep going up the da-na-na-na, na-na-na-na, 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 na-na. You know, the song fades out, but does the song end on like the 22nd fret of the guitar where he just keeps climbing, right? We never know. We'll never know. But no, it's a great song, great intro. So it clocks in at 3 minutes and 50 seconds, which... So technically it's not the longest song. Don't Buy the Realistic on Telephono is 3:55, but there's just a lot of sound effects. You know, the song doesn't start for almost 30 seconds. So to me, if you ask me, I think that's like a longer song. So, you know, again, some more progression with the songwriting, you know, and expanding their sound, making songs a little longer and a little more to them. So great song. Now we're going to get into track 2, Waiting for the Kid to Come Out. So I just kind of want to set the stage for this song. When I heard this, you know, I knew very little about the band, little about where they were from. I might have known they were from Texas, but didn't know a lot about them. So when I heard this song, talking about the Electric Lounge, you know, I didn't know this was a real place in Austin where bands played. Because I coupled the lyrics with his voice. He's like a character, you know. He's like, "This is the Electric Lounge. No one's afraid to laugh. You're gonna break your back." You know, he's like doing a really, really interesting, you know, accent. And so to me, it's like he's playing a character. So in my mind, I see the Electric Lounge is this building, right? We have bricks, we have mortar. There's a fluorescent sign, really cool font with Electric Lounge, but sometimes the O is burned out or flickering, so it's the Electric Lounge. So it's this jazz club, right? It's smoky, it's dirty. You walk in, people are wearing berets, they're wearing sunglasses indoors, they're wearing turtlenecks. It's a jazz club, right? But Britt is dressed in a velvet tuxedo because Spoon's playing a show there. So he's snapping his fingers. This is the Electric Lounge. And Jim, you know, he's just playing that beat on the hi-hat. Well, it's actually just and it's a jazz club. To me, this song is like a take on jazz for some reason. Even the verses when he's playing the guitar, it's really kind of sparse guitar playing, and so let's play that intro with that scene in your mind. And by the way, Jim has some really cool sunglasses on too. So Britt's in that velvet tuxedo, snapping his fingers. Jim has some really cool sunglasses on. He has a double-breasted velvet jacket as well. And, okay, so let's get into the intro of the song.
This is the lecture lounge. No one's afraid to laugh. You say, come on, man, so let me break your back.
Okay, so we had to fade it out there just because the next section I want to talk about even more. But again, that song is just, it's got that vibe. I don't know, that's the vibe I hear. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions on this song. What vibe are you getting? Do you also hear that jazzy sound? Because again, we'll get into the chorus, and it's a rock and roll song at that point, Another thing, as far as jazzy goes, we gotta talk about the drums on this song. And you know it, you were waiting for it. Here it is, a little segment that we call the Jim Eno Appreciation Minute. Hello and welcome to the Jim Eno Appreciation Minute, where we always appreciate Jim Eno, but it's always longer than a minute. My name is Tyler, and today we're going to talk about Jim Eno playing the drums. I really hope that doesn't surprise you because, again, this is the Jim Eno Appreciation Minute. Specifically today, I want to talk about Waiting for the Kid to Come Out. Now, there's this very small little drum fill that you've maybe never thought twice about, but I want to explain why I love it, why it's so great for this song. And so let me play the clip, and we will talk about it right after. That's right. Very short. So in 8 hits of drumheads, Jim Eno has just given us a master class in his drumming. Now, let me explain this. So this clip is really showing how good he is by what he doesn't play. So let me explain that a little bit. He is a drummer that is very not flashy, I guess you could say. You just think about that fill. It could have been it could have been something crazy, right? Because we're in this headspace of it being a kind of a jazzy type song. But no, he does it very simple to not distract from this whole song, from this whole vibe, and that's why it's great. And that's why there's other drummers that are great because of that similar style and that similar, not a lot of ego and trying to bust out a drum solo all the time because man, he could. He's got chops. He's a great drummer, but he's serving the song here. And that vibe for that, that jazzy style is just, it's great. It's great. It's great. So, again, we love you, Jim. We see you, Jim. We appreciate you, Jim. So one last thing I will say about this song, again, we hear those sound effects. There's a percussion on the musical break of this that, it almost sounds like hand claps, but it sounds like a rubber-soled sneaker smacked into a concrete floor. I have no clue what it is, but for some reason that's what it sounds like. So just on that musical break, you hear that percussion in your headphones or speakers, whatever you're listening on. And so and it's really loud. It's mastered very loud. It's just another example of them doing those little weird sounds on a song to add to it. So now the next song, I Could See the Dude. It's hard. It's hard. I go back and forth, but I do think this is my favorite song. It's the most gentle we've heard Spoon at this point. The lyrics are really interesting. We have, it's so funny because I never knew. It took me a while after listening to this song about that he was talking about snot. I remember looking it up on my laptop, and I'm just like, what? I don't know why. I just never really connected the lyrics. And then when I figured them out, I always picture that scene in Dumb and Dumber where they're driving through Colorado on the little scooter and they have snot on their face. But obviously this is not a comedic song. It's it's sad. It's it sounds like it's very sad, depressing, and again, soft song. And they really illustrate that with the slow fade in. Like this song fades in as if to say, this is, it's gentle. It's a gentle way to get into a song, right? A fade in. Because usually songs are going to fade out just because, for some reason or another, they don't have an ending to it, or, it goes on too long. But this song fades in as if to just kind of gently get you into the song. So it's great. Love this one. We'll just play one clip from it just because, it is a shorter song, about 2 minutes, but we'll try to get a good, feel for it.
So I took one look around, walked back out.
All right. So, I tried to get that clip to kind of hear the whole song, or, everything the song has to offer, that weird little musical breakdown, how I believe that was an effect that they were able to run through a wah pedal and re-record to get that effect. But it's great, and you think about the sequencing of, you only got 5 songs, how different can you arrange them, but that's just a perfect track 3. It's right in the middle. You have that really just gentle fade in, kind of taking you somewhere else, and then the ending too. It's a real, distinct ending, that da na 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 na. It's like a definitive end, but it's really, really short. And but it's my favorite. Just, I don't know. I think it's beautiful. And again, those lyrics. You have the soft, gentle song and those lyrics that are kind of off-putting a bit, or it's kind of like a juxtaposition between snot. I don't know. I can't think of any other songs that talk about snot. So interesting. Write in if I'm wrong, and you have or link me to your snot playlist on Spotify, and they just have a bunch of songs about snot. I do hope this one is on there. Okay, so let's get into the next 2 songs. So next we have track 4, which is Get Out the State, and let's just play a little bit of the intro clip, and then we will talk about it. Listening to that intro, so the interesting thing is you're hearing a bass with just some heavy distortions, some heavy effects, and just gives it a really, really dirty sound. The drums come in, but you're still only hearing bass and drums. The guitars don't come in till the second verse, and then the guitars just keep adding on, so it's really cool. But interesting thing that I noticed is, so you hear Britt talking in that little intro. I don't know exactly everything he's saying, but I hear him say something about the first time through. So I don't know if he's talking to somebody explaining, while they're learning the song in the studio or playing through the song. But it's interesting. So that was the first time I've heard, studio chatter that you can make out. So, notoriously, we hear that on their records going forward, and probably their best or most infamous one, Record That Jim, off Don't You Ever, we hear that pretty loud and clear. So that's just showing how they record their albums and keep those things in. And so it's just interesting to hear on this release in 1997. So let's get to another part of the song. Like I said, the guitars just keep adding and adding until the whole outro is just guitars and sounds. I just love how this song has like a really, really classic melody. If you pull this melody from this song and sing it, in your head, it sounds really, kind of like just a classical pop song, if you will. And it's so interesting how that is layered in with these just really, really dirty sounding songs and instruments. And so for me, it took me a while to really understand or get into this song. This is the one that I think when I first listened to this release, I would just skip it just because I'm like, I don't know, it's kind of weird. I don't necessarily like how the song sounds, which is interesting because I was into punk music to rock music, and so it wasn't necessarily the sound of the song. It's just, I don't know, something wasn't vibing for me right away with this song. And then eventually, I just really started, after kind of thinking about the structure of it and the instruments and everything, I just really started liking it. And the lyrics too, an escapism, right? Get out the state. So I like everything about it now. It's one of my favorites Spoon songs. I think it's really cool. But it just shows how, you kind of live with it a little bit, revisit it. Songs grow more than others, and so this one's grown for me a lot, and I do really, really like it. So now, let's get to a clip of the song, shall we? Yeah, so like I said, that song ends with just multiple layered guitars. So, obviously the Britt's the only guitar player at this point, but recorded multiple guitar parts. And then you have that fuzzy noise. Again, it sounds like a wah pedal. It almost sounds like they're trying to get a scratchy sound, almost like a record scratching, I wouldn't say a DJ sound, like a Linkin Park or anything, but it has a very long outro with the guitars and the sound effects, and really cool. Love the guitars. Again, it still sounds like that acoustic electric guitar. Some of these songs, I'm not quite sure if there's an electric guitar. I once want to say Waiting for the Kid to Come Out does sound like an electric guitar, but that one that he was using, I can hear it. I can hear it on this song. So now we have come to the end. Track 5. We've still talked quite at length about this 5-song release, but the last song, Lost Leaders, this is a really interesting one. I feel like it's almost like 2 songs in one. I feel like maybe he had a certain verse and a certain chorus, and then they kind of ended up bleeding them together. Because the chorus section where it's like Shinoma, there's like a really clean sounding ringing out guitar that is like the cleanest sounding guitar I've heard on a record up to this point for them. It sounds very poppy and crisp. A lot of their instrumentation up to this point, there's some distortion, there's some dirt to it, some grittiness, but it sounds like a classic pop song, and so let's just play a clip, and we'll probably end up playing 2 clips here, but we'll start with this clip here and talk a little bit about it.
It brings me back to earth. Shalom, 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 everything I knew and loved about you. Shalom, shalom, so I choose.
All right, yeah, so I wanted to make sure we got some of the verse, the pre-chorus, if you will, chorus, however you want to structure this one. But it's great. And so on that She Know My part, I also love the bass. Yeah, something about the way the guitar is being played and the way the bass is being played. It just sounds like a classic pop song, and it's really good. But again, then it has this, this guitar riff built into it. It feels like it's going to stop, then it comes back into that normal verse and chorus and some backing vocals, and then around the 2.5 minute mark, it takes that little riff that's been introduced, and then it uses that as like a slow fade out. So it's like a great ending to this EP. It feels like a last song on a release, a Spoon closing song. I guess it's not in like my highest rankings of like a last song on an album or EP, but it's up there. Yeah, I like the way it kind of tricks you. So you have this riff, and then it picks up again from that riff, and then it uses that riff again to end the song. So we'll play some of the outro and talk a little bit about that. Yeah, so that's the end of that song. Basically, that point where I faded it out, it just goes a little bit longer. It slows down even a little more and fades out with that song. Shaker gets added in there too in your left headphone, so you'll hear little things like that. And this song again was one that I just kind of re-listened to and kept reappreciating. And, I do really like it as the ending song, as the end of this EP. So really, really can't wait to hear what you guys say about it. I know there's many people that really like this EP. Obviously the band, and I know Britt has talked a lot about liking this EP in the past. So we're going to get into that. I do mention that to him. But now we'll get to this segment where we talk about soft effects. So Britt and I actually talked about it on 2 different days. So what happened is, our conversation, we were talking about it, and then we ended up going some other place, So I have like basic notes, but I do try to not just be glued to my notes. It's less conversational, and I don't really like the feel of it. So after recording, listening back, I realized, oh no, we didn't get to finish up. So you will notice a little difference in quality of the recording because it was on 2 different days and we had some technological limitations the one day. So what I've done is I've actually added a little tiny clip of I Can See the Dude in between the 2 segments as a little transition, because I just thought it'd be really jarring if midway in the conversation, you just hear it sounding a lot different. So, again, I just added that to kind of help your ears a little bit adjust. But yeah, we talked about it on 2 different days and try to get into a couple little interesting tidbits, many things I did not know So yeah, it's very cool, and I hope that you enjoy it. I think you like I Could See the Dude. I think you talked about maybe putting that on a the best of. But do you think it's the best song ever written about snot?
That lyric is stolen from that band Love, and I'm trying to remember the name of the song. Is it "A House Is Not a Motel" or something? I'll have to look it up.
It took me years to realize what you were saying, and like not only are you singing about it, but you're like talking about its specific state of matter and being in crystal form. Like it was I really I don't know why. The first few listens it didn't connect it. Were
There,
you
it's that particular line is a direct
so it's
rip
a
of
okay.
that Love song, and the reason I just thought that it was a disgusting lyric that
Yeah.
it was so out of even on their song it was so out of the blue, and
Yeah.
uh, to me I was really attracted to that lyric because it was so far out, and so I found a way to drop it in. To me, it made sense in the context of the song where I had walked into a room, seen something maybe I shouldn't have seen, and then I ended up, upset, and I was crying and snot on my face, all the that's what the song was about.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, like you say, it's like grotesque things can be used in a way to kind of really strike you, obviously. Um, but I
Right.
love that song. I love that like you do that slow fade in, and it's a really pretty song. The music is really pretty, and then you have that the lyric that kind of turns in a direction you weren't really looking to go or expecting to go, I should say. Uh, but yeah, that EP. I mean, you've talked about it. You really like that. I mean, as far as comparing it to Telephono, you feel like you guys really made some leaps.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best records we put out, and I still love listening to it. And we were in a yeah, we got some good ones there, and maybe part of the reason it was so good is because when the original idea behind those songs was it was just going to be they were going to be B-sides. So there was when we put out Telephono, we were looking down the line, and Matador said, "We'll put out a single of Plastic Mylar in the fall, but we'll need some B-sides for that. So this summer, when you have some time off, can you just record some quickie B-sides?" And so we recorded these songs with very little, prep, and just very, very quickly, and they ended up being, the best stuff we had done to that point. And then they said, "Hey, we're not going to put out a single after all, but maybe you could take these songs and make an EP, put it out the next spring." And I liked that idea even better. So we
Yeah,
recorded one more song. I think the last one we recorded was Mountain of Sound, and that sounded like a good start of a record. And so I put that on the front, and then there we had it.
it is a good start. The panning, man. Yeah, it's a good start. Um,
Yeah,
so Plastic Mylar was supposed to be the third single, and that was just scrapped.
right,
So you had Not Turning Off and All the Negatives Have Been Destroyed, and then you take
right.
B sides as and turn it into an EP. And
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I remember Get Out the State. Like I remember the first time I listened to it, Get Out the State was one of my, this is kind of, I don't know about this one. And now I think it's like one of my favorites too. That you have that bass sound is really distinct. Because
mhm.
that's got like a really classic sounding progression, like the song, the beat, and then yeah, you have these really whacked out instruments on it. I like that
Yeah,
juxtaposition on that song.
yeah. It turned
But
out well.
songwriting progression to me is really the biggest thing I feel different. Like the instruments and kind of how you're playing them isn't a super distinct difference. So like the first time I heard it, it was the Merge reissue. So it had like, all the songs together. And you can
Uh-huh.
obviously hear, okay, this is a separate thing. But maybe that's why I feel like they're more blended together to me. But the songwriting for sure. So like
But they were recorded, by in the same with the same people in the same studio. and almost just about a year apart. So they're bound to have a lot of similarities to them. I felt like it was a little more art driven, and I don't know. They seemed classic in a more understated sense than what we had done before.
Yeah, and then like Waiting for the Kid to Come Out, I really feel like you're like performing as almost like this different dude a little bit. Like you have this accent that you like really put on, almost, if you know what I mean.
The sort of accent in that vocal.
Yeah. So that maybe that was kind of a musical progression too, where you're kind of almost singing in a character, which I really liked.
So I did want to go into a little more of Soft Effect. We had talked about a couple songs on there, and now that we have this reissue campaign out in the open, in the wild, was that always something on your list, like to get that released?
Oh, to get it back in
more available? Yeah.
Because you could get it digitally. I bet you could probably find CDs, because Merge reissued CDs, but yeah, since it is one of the best things we've done, I think it's one that I was the most excited about getting it onto vinyl for the first time since '97 or whatever it was, and we never want it to be out of print.
Yeah, I mean, the reissue we have a couple versions which are cool. So there's a red, a blue, and it's got that original artwork, and then there's just a black vinyl which had that CD cover artwork. So first to talk about that original artwork, I read it somewhere but I forgot. Who's on the cover of the Soft Effects, the vinyl cover?
It's the singer for the Prima Donnas band in Austin. That I think he had just gotten off stage at the Electric Lounge and was laying in the parking lot. And that was a cover that Jim did. So when we put the record out, we put the CD out, the Telephono hadn't done so well, and Matador wasn't real big on doing a vinyl version. They just wanted to do a CD version. And the compromise was to do 500 of them and do a screen print. And I guess it was a thing where the CD cover didn't seem to work very well as a screen print, and so Jim took up the cause of making a different vinyl art cover. And so that's his photo, that's his design. I think it's the only time Jim has designed a cover.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. I think I did the type on the back and he picked the photo on the front. So yeah, now with this reissue, they just went back they did, 500 each of the red and the blue of that old vinyl cover art. And then they also have the blue sky cover art as well.
Yeah, and that blue sky cover art, I remember the Spoon logo, that lived on the website for a long time, where as an iron-on template that you could print out, and I made one of those. About that. But I still have it on my computer. If anybody wants, email me and let me know, and I can send it to you. But it was like an iconic, because there's some bands that have like, the Beatles, Oasis. I'm trying to think of other bands that have their name as such an icon logo, part of their art, right? And you guys have always kind of transitioned, and it kind of fits in with your artwork at the time, But I feel like that one lived around for a while, so that was a cool logo for Spoon.
Yeah, we got that. cut out the letters from No Depression magazine. That's do you remember that fanzine? Or I guess it was a magazine.
No, I don't.
So yeah, I just cut out the letters from the title of that magazine, and then that became the Spoon font.
Yeah, that's awesome. Right, because that release, though, I mean, we talked. Well, you referenced Mountain to Sound in. Oh man, track 4. It's escaping me.
Lines in the Suit.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so you talk about the panning, and that's obviously something that's really, really noticeable. I mean, you have in one ear, you have the drums and bass. You have 2 different guitars on each side and the vocals. And was that something that you planned on doing? Was it an accident, or where did the audio style of that come from?
I think it was just a trick to pull, because we actually recorded that one on 4-track, and I'm not sure why we decided to do that. I think it was just we wanted to blow out the cassette tape and just have that sound. And usually we recorded on a 1/2-inch 8-track with John Crosland, but somehow we talked him into doing that one on 4-track, and it ended up being one of the best songs on there. And I think it was just a thing where in order to have clarity, because it was done in such a lo-fi way, you pan things out and you've got this kind of stylistic vibe going on. And in addition to that, you can hear it really clearly. The drums are all on one side. It just kind of provides some space that you normally wouldn't have on a cassette 4-track mix down. Yeah,
because on the liner for that, that one is specifically noted as recorded on 4-track, and the rest were on 8-track. Mm-hmm. But that was recorded at the same place as Telephono, Dogland.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to think about. I mean, that song. Well, I almost used it as an intro to the show, and we're just going to use one side of it because it sounds really weird if you just listen to the one and the one speaker of it. But that song is a great opener, and I know you guys played that one for a while, and it still continues to draw people in as an opening track to that release. We did talk a little bit about the songs, but the closer, that one has a really, up to that point, sounds like nothing you've ever done. Lost Leaders definitely has like an ending sounding song to it, but even those little guitar rings, it's really clean sounding. Mm-hmm. Do you remember making that one and it sounding different to you at all?
Well, that was a song that my old band Skellington had done, and when Skellington did it, it was called Pop Gun, I think. And so I changed the words just slightly, and when we re-recorded it with Spoon, and it was another example of how it was a thing where we thought all these songs were just going to be B-sides to a single from Telephono. It was going to be the Plastic Mylar single, but since the record didn't do so well, they didn't make sense to do another single for the album, but yeah, it just was like, nobody's going to hear this. I'm just going to do this old song from Skellington, re-record it. But yeah, it turned out great anyway, right? Yeah. I don't know why it sounds. It was, I guess, maybe because it was from a different era. It was a few years earlier that I wrote that one.
Yeah, that could be just a "She Know My" part where you really, it just totally feels different, but in a great way. But it kind of is expanding the sound, and again, I think the songwriting, we talked about how on that record really, we went different places, and yeah, it sounds a lot like the timing had to do with it, because you had planned on just not overthinking those songs. They were just a quick deal, and sometimes the best things come when you don't overthink.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so there is the interview. Yeah, really, really interesting stuff. Had a great time talking with him about soft effects. I hope you guys enjoyed the whole episode. Please stay in touch with the show. Our next episode is going to be your reactions, so fan reactions to anything that we just talked about, and soft effects, the record you got in the mail, anything with my takes on the songs and the interview with Britt. So please email at iturnmypodcaston@gmail.com. And also please follow me on social media. I'm having a lot of fun, like a little pseudo fan club with fans of Spoon and the podcast. So on Instagram, it's at iturnmypodcaston. And then on Twitter, it's Turn My Podcast On. So no I, because only so many characters you can do for your name on Twitter. So again, hit up the Twitter, the Instagram, email me, and stay in touch with the show. So, in between episodes, I'm trying to have fun and, post different things about the podcast, about the band, and, having fun with you guys, posting your pictures about whatever it may be that's related to Spoon. So again, we're going to have episodes every 2 weeks. So 2 weeks means you're going to have 10 days to respond to this episode. So this episode is going to drop on Monday, August 3rd, which means you have till the 13th to get in your responses, and then it's going to come out the next Monday. So yeah, that's the goal. Every other Monday, a new episode of I Turn My Podcast On. So thank you so much for listening and all the great responses I've already got, and just having so much fun with this project. And enjoy talking to you guys about Spoon. And we will continue to talk Spoon for as long as we both shall live. But for now, bye-bye, 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 bye-bye.
Ba 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 ba.